But thank you for taking the time out to chat to me. Obviously, we're here speaking about FrightFest, which is next weekend. Are you guys excited?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh, we've heard legends. We've been to the Glasgow FrightFest with Synchronic, and it was the last festival we went to before the pandemic. So that was our last party, you know, and as amazing as that one was, everybody there was saying, "Oh, then you've got to go to the London one. It's the big one." So we're anticipating something pretty huge.
It's I mean, you're showing on the IMAX screen, so I mean, just that in itself is going to be absolutely massive. Are you daunted to sort of see your film projected on such a big screen?
To be honest, yes. The film is luckily leans into its deliberate technical imperfection in that it's about two amateurs trying to capture the supernatural with like standard def cameras, but it's just, we shot the film, yes, of course, on a professional red camera, but it's also shot on high 8 infrared, a $25 security camera from Amazon, a DVX 100, which is standard def, a DSLR camera, and I think I'm actually forgetting 2 more of them. There's just so many of them, and I have no idea how that'll hold up on IMAX. A drone camera, yeah.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, it might be the fact that you guys shot in your own apartment building, but there's something about Something in the Dirt that feels really intimate and personal. Why do you think that is?
Oh, it's funny. You know, we both used our actual childhood videos in the movie, so there's that aspect of it. There is, like you said, there's a lot of our own stomping grounds in Los Angeles featured in the movie. The characters themselves of John and Levi are quite different, obviously, than who we are in real life. But the things that are happening to them are things that sort of probably poke at our own metaphysical curiosities in some ways, or an idea of like, hey, how could you get yourself to believe in the supernatural or the otherworldly, and the events happening to John and Levi are probably things closer to things that would give us pause personally if they happen to us, maybe much more so than like, you know, the wind blew and there was an orb in the room, and you know, like more traditional ideas of hauntings phenomenon. But for all those reasons, it probably feels, you could probably have it because it's made with such a small crew. So oftentimes in these, you know, emotional scenes, there's actually only 3 people in the room, just myself, Aaron, and our producer David Lawson. And that, I can imagine that probably resonates through the film in a weird way, probably in a way a viewer can feel.
You're just performing for your best friends that you don't have to. There's almost no layer of self-consciousness that can exist. You know, these are the people who have seen you for a decade already, and making sure that the boom operator isn't bored is never in your mind.
And sort of leading on from that, you know, you're very good friends in real life. In The Endless, you're playing brothers, and here you're playing sort of strangers who don't necessarily really like each other. How did you guys sort of work together to build that tension? Because I guess, you know, it doesn't exist between you in real life, but you have to then put that onto the screen. And sort of, where did you materialize that from?
I mean, it was a ton. This is the boring part. A lot of rehearsal, a lot of just workshopping and talking about it. Also, maybe something that helps is that we're oftentimes not in a scene together in the traditional way you would think of actors being in a scene together if it's not a wide shot. If it's a single on one of us, just the weird production method we were using, we were oftentimes not acting against each other. The other person was holding the camera, and then we'd pick up a point for eyeline. I think about that a lot because it's funny, because even though part of the point of the movie is that these guys, they do more or less remain strangers. They never quite become real friends, which is a fun dynamic to play with. But the sorry, it's early. I keep losing my train of thought. It was a fun dynamic to play with. But the I totally lost. Sorry, totally lost what I was saying.
And there's not many cast in the film, but you guys do have one fairly memorable co-star. What was it like working with Hungry Dave?
So Hungry Dave is actually a guy, a hungry. He's actually named Hungry Dave, and he actually is an aggressive squirrel that lives around our apartment. And he's so aggressive that we knew we could write him into the movie because we knew he would be around. Because if we're around, he will just run right up to you. He's run inside both of our apartments. He'll get at eye level on the fence as you're walking to the back door, and he'll run along the fence 6 inches from your face, and it looks like he's going to jump on your face. So we're constantly like running to our homes kind of like this, hoping that Hungry Dave doesn't try to like jump on us because we don't know what'll happen. So what we'll say is he shows up on time. He shows up hungry, ready to work, he likes to look right into the camera. So that's a little trademark of his.
He's actually, if you look closely at the movie, he's in more than that shot. He runs by in the background a few times.
Yeah, he's around.
I mean, there's a lot of things in the film that call back to your previous films, and that's something that you do a lot in your work. Why do you think it's important to sort of, you've almost created your own universe in a way? There's lots of like ways that everything interconnects.
Well, there's two answers really, and I'll take a stab at one of them, which is we really like that you don't have to have seen any of our movies to enjoy a single one of them. There is of course a continuity between them in many ways. The closest continuity, of course, is The Endless and Resolution. But there's also a continuity between The Endless and Something in the Dirt in smaller ways that you're referencing. We think that one is it's just really fun that nobody's doing that in micro budget, as far as we know, as long as you can get away with not needing the information from the previous film. And we find that kind of funny that we're working for Marvel, the world's biggest interconnected universe. We grew up on Stephen King. But we're also in this tiny little micro budget world for those 5 that are paying attention are like, oh my gosh, these movies are connected. And then the other one is thematically in this film, we just wanted it's more than an Easter egg and less than a full-blown sequel, prequel, spiritual sequel, whatever. In that, if you've seen The Endless, then you kind of can figure out what's going on a little bit before the characters. And the whole thing is about them going down this rabbit hole so deep that they don't even know what's right in front of their very eyes. And they're missing it. And that's part of the point.
And Justin, we spoke before about your fascination and your studying of various sciences at different points in your career. With this film, there's so many theories and ideas that are conversed about. How much fun was it, finally sort of like being let off the leash to just, spout all of these, really interesting ideas?
It was really fun. It was very fun to like be able to connect in things that over the years we've been sort of obsessed with ourselves, going down huge rabbit holes of trying to find information. Like it was even things as simple as like, a reference to Jack Parsons or an image of Aleister Crowley or things like this. And these sort of very esoteric areas of recent human esoteric spiritual movements. It was fun to be able to weave those into the story. Really difficult to create this elaborate mythology for these two guys in a way that didn't reflect too much on actual conspiracy theorists and things, but because there's so much out there now that it's like you have to, like, it's so easy to end up, you're creating a totally fake science fiction mythology, and then it ends up looking like something that's more politically affiliated, or even if not that, just like perhaps just a worldview you don't really want to be associated with.
There's a line in the film that actually it's very rare that any of the characters say anything that we actually believe. However, there is one line in the film that we found important to put in there, which is, I guess I got into this because I liked watching the X-Files when I was little, but nowadays I guess everything's the X-Files. So that's kind of, why I like being in genre cinema, but all world.
I mean, would you say that the X-Files was a big influence on you both in getting into the sort of films that you make? Because I think there is some commonality between them.
There is no doubt that the X-Files is an enormous influence on us. Many things in that orbit as well, the Stephen King and Alan Moore and Grant Morrison and all of those. But also one of our favorite little stories to tell is we went to cocktails with Glenn Morgan, one of the main writers of the X-Files, who was our writer and producer on our Twilight Zone episode. And we, over some martinis, we grilled him about some X-Files mythology stuff. And at a certain point, he says, I actually just don't know the answer to that one. Hang on, let me find out. Pulls out his phone and just starts texting Chris Carter for that. So now we got like inside track, straight from the horse's mouths, deep mythology X-Files questions answered. It's all up here.
Jealous as a fellow X-Files fanatic, very jealous. But it must have been, it must have been hard then in the film to deliver the lines. I think it's Levi, who he calls them, Fox, Scully, and Dana Mulder. That must have been, as an X-Files fanatic, that must have been a bit of pill to have to say.
Yeah, it was fun. We also, it's funny, we have not yet seen it in an English speaking audience to where we can we've seen it in one audience, and they were French speaking. So it's always like you're always wondering like which jokes are like landing in the translation. And when we see it at FrightFest, I think we're just really hoping that people get that Levi mixed up their names.
Yeah,
we're like really hoping that joke lands. We just don't know yet. We've never seen it with the English speaking audience. Fingers crossed.
Let's just hope. Yeah, let's hope that they pick up that it's an intentional thing and not that you guys are just generally getting the characters' names muddled up.
Just the dumbest. Oh no. Reference the X-Files all the whole time and mix up the names. Oh my.
It's interesting also is that there's obviously 11 seasons of X-Files, and yes, there's the mythology we all remember dealing more with Mulder's sister and UFO mythology and that stuff, but obviously there were so many episodes that were standalone, Monster of the Week or Phenomenon of the Week or whatever that is, and there's so many that it's actually really hard to make like a genre fiction movie and not dive into some of the things that X-Files already did. Mm-hmm. And we actually, our first movie, Resolution, the way that the entity operates in Resolution is that phenomenon is broadly, you can call it, I think some people call it thoughtography, but that's covered in an episode of X-Files. But I didn't know that till after we made Resolution. Very interesting though.
I think between X-Files and Star Trek, every sci-fi horror concept has gotten at least touched on somewhere. and it's pretty hard to find new ones.
Definitely. And you guys go from working on Something in the Dirt and your other films, you know, this micro budget production, and then suddenly you're now working with Disney, which is this, you know, massive Marvel machine. You know, how do you sort of shift your mindset from working on one to the other? Because I imagine that they're vastly different sizes of crews and things.
Yeah. Well, that answer has about 1 million different parts, but one is that they're surprisingly not that different, in that our independent films are heavy collaborations. We're already co-directors. That's an immediate, like, massive creative collaboration, and so entering into a highly collaborative world is not. Our films are just never dictatorships. They're very much like listening to great ideas and picking and choosing the good ones. And then also, it's funny is once you have a script, you walk on the set and you still have to point a camera at actors and record it. And that mechanism is the same in independent film or in big films. And so as long as you're viewing that as the same thing, even though they look a little bit different, the process actually just isn't all that different. But a piece of that answer is just that they feed each other. We're always working on something else. And so anytime you go home from Moon Knight and start editing Something in the Dirt, and then you get tired of editing Something in the Dirt and you get to go to set and invent something new. It kind of just forces your brain to detach so it doesn't grind on it. It's the equivalent of like going for a walk when you have writer's block.
I guess as we're running out of time, the final question would be, you know, why should the FrightFest audiences take a chance on Something in the Dirt? What is your film gonna offer them?
Well, we like weird movies a lot, and we can confidently say this is a very weird movie.
Mm-hmm. We are most proud of the fact that almost every movie we've ever done, and almost every movie has kind of a this meets this comp. I don't think Something in the Dirt has a comparable movie. We just don't know exactly how to describe it. And then also, it's besides being this dark sci-fi horror drama, it is by far the most dark comedy we've ever done. So you'll have a good time, and you will be laughing, which is something we've always tried for, but this one actually earns the genre category dark comedy this time.